for being here tonight. It's the September 26th Southampton Village Zoning Board of Appeals hearing. On my left, we have Linda Munn. On my right, we have Carol Zacharias. We have Brian Stoller, our attorney. We also have Lisa Rickmers, our new environmental planning consultant. Thank you for being here. Let's jump right into it. Let's go with case 3181, 375 Ox Pasture Road.
Good evening, board members.
Elizabeth, before you begin,
Yes.
We have reviewed this, and unless you have anything specifically you want to add, I think we can do a positive vote on this.
Great.
Okay?
That sounds good to me.
This being the revised plans that were submitted.
This being the revised plans that you've submitted that shows everything inboard of the setback lines.
Thank you.
Okay? So I will move to approve this via the new short form. Brian, is that the yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a two-part motion that you're the lead agency, type 2 action under secret, no environmental review required. And
Microphone.
so- thank you. It's a motion that you are the lead agency, type 2 action under secret, no environmental review is required, and in accordance with the short form format recently approved by the village, you would move to approve the variances requested pursuant to a short form format decision.
Okay, so that's the motion.
Second.
Seconded. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So we'll close this subject to a written decision or the short
No.
form. We're done.
That's it.
Thank you, board members.
We're done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Looks great.
Thanks, guys. Looks
Thank you.
great.
Thank you.
Take care. Okay, moving now to case 3177, 22 Windmill Lane. Liz, that's you too.
Just put the plan so we can consider it. Good evening, board members. I'm Liz Vale. I'm Greenberg Traurig. I'm at 2317 Montauk Highway, Bridgehampton. And I'm here today with Rick Wisnowski from the Rayner Group. We were here before, and we did revise our plans, hopefully answering some of the comments of the board. In particular, it did require us, though, to renotice this application, which we did, because the frontage. So the code requires the frontage to be 90%. And we were asking originally for a reduction to 85.4%, but based on the board's feedback with regard to getting rid of the decking and replacing it with a green space over here, we got rid of the decking, which elongated our frontage, and now we need additional relief to allow it to be 45.1% or 41.3 linear feet of frontage, where 90% or 82.35 linear feet is required. So that's one of the changes we made, and Rick's going to go through the rest of the changes for the board.
Yeah, so last time you guys commented on just trying to get better access on the site. So we looked into that and we created just a walkway right here to get to the front area, redesigned the retaining wall to just go around the complete area where the septic is going to go. We have steps up to the raised lawn area, septic area. We put a little 3-foot buffer here to allow car doors on vehicles that park here to open their door, so there's no issue there. And then we just move the handicap spaces to the rear. The rear first floor is handicap accessible. There's just no ramp up here. And those are the main changes that we did.
I should also note that Joan McGivern from Toomey Latham is here tonight. She represents the neighbor at Rotations, and we do have a shared septic situation that we will be addressing with both the health department and the planning board when we get there. We're not addressing that right now. It's not before this board, but that being said, it is something we're willing to work with the neighbor on. I've spoken to Joan. I look forward to working with her been working out some sort of agreement where we have to accommodate that shared septic.
Okay.
Okay?
For me, it's much more clear in this plan how you move around the site and what's retained and what's not. So I appreciate that. Linda, Carol.
Just so we understand that you're parking in all of those designated slots, and then getting out of your car and walking down this little pathway, and the front door is,
There's going to be doors right there,
Right there.
on the side, in the rear, and in the front,
And
and
this-
in here in the existing building.
and then that's just green space?
So this is, correct me if I'm wrong, the area in the south corner is green space because that's where they're housing their sanitary. Because of the high water table, they actually have to build up a little bit, so it's almost like a green pad.
Okay.
But it will be a nice green space that will get planted.
We removed the decks. And just,
Yeah,
just
I think that's better.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Okay, then shall we hear from? Hi, Joyce.
Hi, it's Joan McGivern from Toomey Latham, representing 32 Windmill. I concur with Liz Vale. We're going to work out the septic easement that 32 Windmill has on 22 Windmill's property within the context of the planning board and the health department. And we just wanted to emphasize that there's a pedestrian walkway that the brick walkway needs to be preserved for the second story apartments. There's some
Along the north side.
along the north side.
Uh-huh.
And then my client has a general concern about losing parking and the trucking space. He doesn't know, I have to talk to the building inspector whether this right-of-way is actually a fire lane or not. But that's an issue for the planning board as well,
Okay.
okay?
Liz, do you have a response to that?
No, we're happy to work with Joan on these issues. And we anticipate having to work on most of them through site plan review with the planning board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Joan, you're not specifically opposed to an approval from this board at this time, but you guys are acknowledging that you'll work together
Yes.
to make
Yeah.
it happen. Okay. Brian, are there any other issues on this that we should be aware of in this arrangement here?
There aren't, but if I can just ask Liz to again give us the numbers with respect to the minimum span, because the agenda, I think, still uses the old
It's
numbers.
the old one. The agenda wasn't updated, but the notice was completed correctly.
Liz, can you please use the
Sure,
microphone?
sorry. The agenda was not updated, I apologize, but the notices were provided. The new frontage that changed was for a variance to allow the proposed frontage to be 45.1% or 41 linear feet of frontage, where 90% or 82.35 linear feet is, I believe, required. And then we still need the reduction on the parking waiver, you'll remember, from 22 spaces to 8 spaces, so a variance for 14 parking spaces. And then to reduce the number of required truck loading spaces from 1 to 0. And then also to increase the maximum front yard setback for the first story from the required 3 feet to 9.5 feet, where 7.5 is existing for that historic setback.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I guess piggybacking on Joan's comment about the truck loading, what is the plan for that? I don't necessarily anticipate a lot of trucks coming and going to a medical
No.
building, but your initial build out, I don't know, there will be some deliveries there. What's the plan?
Well, the waiver is based on the fact that we're so close to municipal parking and municipal parking areas and accesses around this lot. It's completely surrounded by the municipal parking. So I did put in my statement of support in writing to the board, the first iteration of this plan, all the reasons why we meet the provisions for a waiver of parking, including the truck loading space. It is for a medical office. It's not for, a retail store that might get more supplies on a regular basis. So to that end, that's set forth in our written statement to the board.
Okay.
And we're doing the payment in lieu of. This is not just a variance for parking. We're paying in lieu of, it's $8,000 per spot.
Understood.
Yep.
Joyce, you've had some time to sit with this application. What do you think?
I think for the whole that they've addressed most of our concerns.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm pretty good with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Linda?
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Agreed.
Carol?
Agreed.
Okay. I agree as well. And now you'll go to Planning and Architectural Review Board?
Yes.
Okay. So I will move to close.
Before you do, make sure nobody in the audience wants to be heard.
Good idea. Is there anyone from the audience?
I submitted written comments.
Yes.
Could we have those, please?
You're Gus.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Gus, come up and share your concerns.
Have my comments been read?
We don't read them out. They're part of the public file.
Okay.
So if you would like to read it,
But we've read them.
we have read them.
We each get copies.
I see.
And just for the record, can you just, number one, use the microphone, and number two, just give us your full name, please.
Sure, my name is Gus Francisi. I'm the owner of 71 Jobs Lane. This past summer, we've lost a considerable amount of parking spaces right behind the subject property. The spaces along the right-of-way were removed by the village. They weren't designated parking spaces, but people have been parking there for decades. Parking spaces were removed on the driveway opposite Shippey's. Spaces are continuously being removed. And this is going to, and we have a lot of burden down there. The municipal parking lot is no help to us because it's 2-hour parking. We have employees that work in the area, and we have no place to park. All of the parking, starting at, let's say, the Herbert's property, Topi Arison, okay, that complex there, all the way down, Joe, all that parking behind there is all private parking, all of it. There is no public parking other than the municipal lot. It seems to me this is a lot to ask, considering we just lost a number of spaces back there. This is a lot to ask of the present property owners to waive this many spaces, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. So 71 Min Mill is the La Carrezza.
71 Jobs, I am.
Oh, 71 Jobs, sorry.
I'm next to Stevenson's, and we have tremendous issues back there. The vacuum cleaner store is private, Herbert and Wrist is private. Stevenson's is private. They're all private spaces back there. There is no place for anybody to park. This is an excessive application in my view. That many spaces back there. I invite you to visit it down there and see it on a Saturday to see there's no place to park as it is. The theater is going to bring parking, and like I wrote in my letter, the redevelopment of and releasing of the corner of Windmill Lane and Hill Street, that building has at least 30 years has been nobody in there. Now it has activity. There is increased demand down there on parking. Okay, and I can't say this is going to be a 1-2 punch for us down there. We just lost all this parking. I don't know what this board didn't make the decision. I don't know why those parking spaces were taken away. Okay, probably for safety reasons. I'm guessing. Okay, but I don't know where. I mean, I would like to see this building fixed. I've been looking at it for a long time myself. Okay, but I don't know where this new square footage, where these people are going to park. I don't know where they're going to park.
So part of our decision making is a balancing, right, of the benefit versus the detriments. And I think it's clear that you feel that there is a detriment in losing.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but also isn't part of your decision making a practical difficulty and hardship?
Well, yes.
Well, these
To clarify, that's old law. In 1993, New York State got rid of that.
Okay.
So that's
right?
not your fact. That's not the consideration.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I'm old.
Okay. And I guess I'm not as studied up on this as I should be, but part of what the applicant is offering to the village in lieu of these required parking spots is a substantial monetary payment that goes into a village fund earmarked specifically.
I'm aware of it. I've
for-
gotten one. I've received one of those variances myself.
Right.
And that's also something in question. You said $8,000 a spot.
That's right.
I believe that was raised years ago under Paul Robinson brought that before this board. I believe that was raised.
Well, we can confirm that, and I'm sure the developer of the property will pay whatever
Yeah,
it
I'm
is
sure.
actually.
But I believe that, I don't think that figure is correct anymore.
Okay.
But I could be wrong.
Look, we're sensitive to the parking issues downtown, and I think it's something that has existed for a long time and is going to exist for a long time. We are going to get the movie theater parking lot back
Yes.
for residents. I understand that this area is tight. I view their payment in lieu of parking as a win for the village.
Okay, so this is a question of the money regardless of the businesses downtown and the detriment to them.
No, it's don't take it as a strictly don't take it so transactionally. Take it as it funds a specific account with the purposes of finding and implementing new spots.
I am
around
aware
the
of that,
village.
and I am in this village 43 years, and the village has not bought one spot. The money is used to fix potholes and so forth. It also can be used for, the village has not bought one spot in the time that I've been here.
Okay.
So just be aware of that.
Okay. Thank you, Gus.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate your time. Liz, do you want to respond to any of that?
I'm happy to address that. So there's a specific section in the code that actually you have to go through when you're seeking a parking waiver from this area and Village Business District. The village has obviously anticipated that village businesses are going to generate more parking than actually exists. And as such, you have to go through the section of the code, which I did in my written submission to you, and I can do again here. It's basically Village Code Section 116-14C, D, and E. And it requires, in the case where first analysis is how close the municipal parking is, and if it's within 500 feet of the lot, and where the Board of Appeals determines that there's no need for additional facilities, the municipal parking that surrounds the subject property, there's on-street parking available on Windmill Lane right in front of the property. There's additional approximate 11 spaces on 27 West Main Street owned by the village. And then finally, there's approximately over 200 parking spaces available in the municipal parking lot at 27 West Main Street, which is owned by the village, and it's 50 feet from the subject property, where, the code requires it to be within 500 feet. So it's much closer. It is surrounded by public parking. Also, we are proposing 8 spaces, but 9 only exist here. So, it's not like we had 22 spaces existing and we're getting rid of them for this building. Only 9 existed, and we're doing proposed 8 because the planning board required us to do 2 handicap spaces. Normally, we could have gotten an extra one in there to keep the 9 if we only needed 1 handicap space. But because of the planning board's preference, we're doing 2 handicap spaces, probably because it's a medical office. The next section is paying $8,000, which is actually in the code, per space or other amount as determined by the Board of Trustees, as determined over time, fixed by resolution of the board. So if the village board did update it, then we would have to pay that updated amount. But in the code, it still says $8,000, which is why we said that's what it is. And again, we're willing to pay this fee if it's deemed necessary by the board, which I believe it was. And then the other subsections say that it shouldn't be applicable where the Board of Appeals grants a variance pursuant to subsections. It's given that the application meets the requirements of granting a variance for parking spaces. The applicant doesn't need to meet the special provisions of F4A, B, and C. However, the applicant understands the rationale for waiving parking spaces in the VB zoning district, and we're willing to pay the $8,000 per space. And then I also cited the precedent of at least 2 different spots where you've waived similar amounts of parking, which were at 9 Main Street. The decision was dated November 19th, 2015. They waived a requirement for a proposed 2,840 square foot second story to an addition to the existing structure, waiving 10 spaces and 1 truck loading space. And then also at 16 Hampton Road, which is a decision called Dialex Realty Inc., dated September 22nd, 2016, which is also precedent where it was in the VB zoning district, and that they were allowed to pay $8,000 in off-street parking fee waivers as well, for a waiver of parking for that as well. And you waived 8 spaces in that section for a proposed second floor office of 2,225 square feet in the VB zoning district. So the VB zoning district is historically tight with respect to parking, but the code allows for a waiver if you meet the standards, which we do.
And net, this is a reduction of 1 parking spot.
Exactly.
Of what exists.
Exactly. We're not getting rid of our existing spaces,
Okay.
except for 1 because of the handicap space.
Okay. Is there anyone else from the public who wants to speak on this?
If I might,
Please do.
Just add with respect to the waiver requirements and the considerations, you can grant it where you make a finding that the lot on which the property is located is either too restricted an area or unusual dimension, shape, or topographic character, and no other suitable and adequate lot can be reasonably put to such use within 500 feet of the property to which said parking and/or truck loading spaces are accessory.
Mm-hmm.
It is an odd-shaped lot.
It is an odd-shaped lot. 22 spaces would render much of the building unbuildable. Okay. Well, in that case, I'll move to close the hearing. Brian, for all purposes?
That works.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
board
you.
members.
Okay, we will now go to case 3178, 1770 Meadow Lane. Okay, so Lisa, this is the property that you submitted a report on. Would you like to begin this portion and run down your report and your findings, please?
Yes, would you like me to start, or would you like to see the?
We have seen a draft of this before, so I'd like to get your take.
Okay, excellent. So this, the memo summarizes the various items that were reviewed, including some of the previous versions that the board has seen, and along with the newest submittal. The applicant is proposing an addition to an existing residence to that will include adding an additional 4 bedrooms to the existing residence and increasing the number of bedrooms to 8. As part of this, they will also be installing a new innovative alternative on-site wastewater treatment system known as an IA system. The important thing to note here is that the flagged wetlands, which were flagged by InterScience, the building and the existing septic are already within the regulated area. So the new IA on-site wastewater treatment system will now be, the proposed setback is, in the latest plan I reviewed, is 178 feet. The regulated wetlands area is 200 feet, and given the confines of this property and the existing building and then the ocean on the other side, this is as far, I believe, on the property as you could feasibly get the system from the existing wetlands. As far as the additions are concerned, the regulated wetlands area for additions is less in the code than for septic, so that's a 150-foot regulated area. And for each of the different additions, they range between 85.7 feet to 120.1 feet setbacks from the regulated wetlands area. And this is obviously an optional construction to expand the house, but given the confines of the space, is going to move in a different direction and go towards the ocean is not feasible, as you would be crossing the Sea-Haw line and developing an area you couldn't develop in. So if this building is to be expanded, this direction is the only really feasible alternative. And it's for the zoning board, I guess, to determine whether they think that is, if the setbacks have been maximized from the wetlands area. A couple other points that I did note in here. The zoning board particularly had asked about drainage, and I made some notes. There are indications on the plan that drainage is intended to be contained, and that the driveway is intended to use permeable pavers. But there wasn't a lot of detail provided, so I'm not able to do any kind of assessment as to whether the drainage will be contained by the system, or whether there wasn't a lot of detail on what the surface will be that is this permeable surface. In addition, I did not see calculations that included for drainage that included the additional building structures, so the additional roof surface area, and we didn't really have an explanation to begin with of how current drainage is handled on the site. So if there's an existing system that's going to be handling the drain that already handles the drainage from the existing building, and if the new additions will be able to be contained. With that regard, I did pose the question to the board whether you would like more information on this, on the drainage. I will say that in concept, the idea of putting in drainage for the driveway using permeable pavers, these are all good things and within the purposes of the wetlands regulations. One other thing to note in the is just construction and sedimentation control, and I did not see any kind of plan for that. It probably just hasn't been made yet, but my question for the ZBA would be if you would like to see an erosion and sediment control plan prior to your review to ensure that the wetlands are protected during construction. And then I think the other piece that I should mention here is just the secret determination. This is also a type 2 action. It's the expansion of an existing dwelling. So under number 11 in the type 2 list, construction or expansion of a single family or 2-family or 3-family residence on an approved lot, including provision of necessary utility connections as provided in, and as well as septic is listed there. It's a type 2 action requiring no further environmental review.
When you talk about a sediment plan, is that a SWIP plan? Am I thinking of the same thing?
So a SWIP is required by for all projects exceeding an acre of disturbance by the New York State DEC, and they would be required if they're, again, because I don't have a construction plan, I don't know the full area of disturbance proposed, but if it's over an area of disturbance, then a SWIP will be required of the project. A sedimentation and erosion control plan could be required for any project. It's not quite the same bar as a SWIP is, and would just show some type of containment. Could be fencing, hay bales, various methods can be used to just protect the area. And it would also generally indicate also construction staging areas so that that they won't be unintentionally, possibly, because it would be contractors that go on site and do the work, unintentionally infringing on that area when they work.
Right, okay, thank you. So, Brian, if the building inspector felt as if a SWIP were required, he would have mandated that already, right?
They're not going to be able to get a building permit without a SWIP if it's required. So yes, that's something will be separately dealt with.
Okay. I don't think you're disturbing over an acre. Right. Okay. Gentlemen, have you seen the H2M report?
Yes.
Okay.
Tom Pedrazi, architect for the
Thank you,
applicant.
Lisa.
You're welcome.
Leslie Harwood and Craig Harwood. Leslie is here with us again, third time. And I have Steve Naroda to my right, and he's the landscape architect. So we discussed that maybe question 1 would go to me, and question 2, response to question 1.
Super.
Okay, so what I did do is I did do a survey, a quick survey, because we got this report on the 20th. And I think it was a Friday that we actually were informed it was in the portal. So what this house does is it has a very unique system. It has what we call scupper through wall drainage, which basically scuppers the water out into a drain, essentially a cistern, that collects, and it's sort of become very elegant in some projects. But this is a very practical system. And what I did was I submitted this drawing to the file, showing basically the areas of new proposed existing scuppers and existing drains. So off of the back, to not have to have the water pouring out onto the pool deck, they actually did drains through these fin walls, which was, I think, very unique solution, because obviously you don't want to bring the water into the house. So there was 2 little fin walls that they sent it down. Mm-hmm. So that was all surveyed. I had my tape measure, I had my crowbar, I was cranking it out there. So I got all those square footages.
Okay.
And let me just go through okay, so the existing drainage system will remain in use. We're not touching any of that system, ensuring continuity in managing the surface, the roof surface runoff. New drywalls will be installed at the driveway area for the new west wing to manage any additional runoff in that area. We do, in the calculation for our runoff by Ed Armis, the civil engineer, he was over a certain cubic footage of area. So I kind of usurped that into this calculation for this one. And I could use this, the area here to go into this drywall and this drywall. They were sufficient enough, and it's all on this chart right here, to accommodate that additional surface. So the drainage calculation was provided, and I think it's a very clear system, not overly complicated, and I think it will service these two little extension roofs I don't know. I calculated it and certified that it would suffice to pick up the additional, rainwater that would have to be taken off that roof.
So these dry wells are existing. The roof drains to them now, and you're saying they have the capacity
They
to
have
handle.
the capacity to handle what is there and what is going to be proposed.
What page can I see the existing dry wells? Drawing number is that?
You
The survey?
Oh no, it's on all the surveys, but I did do this plan, which you do not actually have.
I have that. I just
Okay.
don't see the dry wells on that drawing.
Well, the dry wells are beneath each one of these scuppers. So, and if you can go to this site plan, the Squires and Holden site plan, you can see the catch basins. See on either side, there's like little catch basin. It's a very complicated survey.
Catch basin. Okay.
So there's, I believe in total, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 catch basins and 2 drains that reach into catch basins. They're
Okay.
underneath the pool.
Okay. I think what we would probably prefer, Lisa, jump in if you think this is overkill or if you think what they've provided is adequate. But we'd probably like to see, just laid out very simply on a chart, capacity of the dry wells, potential rainfall quantity, so we can see that there.
So the chart down below, which basically is the area times the 2-inch rainfall, which would equal divide that by 12 to get the cubic. So we're at 92, 530, total of 662, and then I broke that down into what's existing and what's new.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the existing ones are 3 by 8. I mean, the tape measure didn't go down to 8 because obviously there's sediment and but we would clean those out, obviously. But they're pretty good wells to catch that water.
So when you say 2 round wells, roof drain, 4 feet by 8 feet, 200
Those are
cubic
the 2
feet.
off of the back.
Those are the capacities.
Yeah, and then there's 5 of the round, through the scuppers through the wall, which have a 3 foot by 8 foot capacity, which would calculate to a total of 285 cubic feet of capacity.
Okay. Tom, I think your client
Sorry,
wants to speak.
Thank you. I just wanted to add, since we're living here 37 years, and we've been through hurricanes, we've been through deluge of water, and friends in the neighborhood, we know almost all of our neighbors. Everyone's calling, is your house okay? Like, we are dry. We have never had a flood. We've never had a problem with the roof. I know it sounds crazy, but we have never had a problem. The driveway, we've never had a problem. We've just never had a flood anywhere in the house, on the roof, or in the dry wells, and they've worked incredibly well.
Okay.
And the only other thing, we are only adding 2 bedrooms. We presently have 6. We're only adding 2 bedrooms. And it's, for my grandchildren and children, and so we're not.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I
No,
think-
that's okay. I just wanted to.
well, thank you for the clarification. I
try to
believe I read
clarify
that somewhere
that
in the
we-
documents,
we-
but maybe it was a
yeah.
confusion of what was going to be connected
I'd
to.
like to add more, but it just
Right.
didn't work out in the plan. But
There was
because we're trying to make it as simple and compact as we can. So.
Okay. Let's
I
hear
just
part
wanted to-
2, and then we'll discuss both.
I like to add my 2 cents on these things.
Good evening. Steve Naroda with Harris Design, Landscape Architecture. Thank you, Lisa, for your report. Really appreciate it. As far as sediment control, we would prepare a plan for that. I think it's very important to us to protect the wetland during construction. It's very common for us to prepare it. And we also want to show where the contractors would park, trailers, dumpster locations, all that, just to show that we can construct and be, take care of the wetland.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's not a problem for us at all to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me, just one more thing. And typically that would be something that Chris Talbot would require the surveyor with the help of Steve to put on the survey. So they'd put stakes and they'd have everything sediment control, an acre or not. In this case, we have to keep the sediment out of this zone. We have to keep anybody parking in this area, obviously, out of this area. So, and also the staging, because it's a very tight spot, and we're putting huge septic systems in, and
Right.
we're putting geothermal in. It's
Right.
so
yes, a construction protocol, erosion control, sediment control plan, everything on one sheet is probably best. Even the drainage calculations, if that could be transcribed over, that would probably be helpful. If all the information is just on one drawing, and then I don't know if I should do this or not, but check out 1750 Meadows application that LaGuardia provided, and just how they presented that information in a very legible way. And that might be a guide for how to address those concerns, because we are keyed into driveway drainage and all water management on site. It would be unfortunate to spend so much money revegetating with native plantings only to get it flooded out or starved or what have you, right? What do you think?
I think that you just described exactly what we need. Just
Okay.
assurances that everything that you've provided today is, up to the task.
Okay. Joyce, do you have anything to add or any questions?
I agree. I think as long as we can see this all coherently, the sediment control, the erosion prevention plan for during construction, as well as a drainage calculation, so we're clear on all those points, I think would be very helpful. But thank you for all the work.
Yeah, I think if we go through your request and starting at number 3 with the sanitary system, 178 where 200 feet is required, I think you've successfully illustrated that you really don't have a great footprint to put that in, and you're kind of forced to go in that direction. The proposed staircase, I think that's a minimal request. And then the additions off of the existing house, when we balance the trade-off, I think that the improvements to the property as a whole probably outweigh any perceived detriment there. We also have recent precedent down the street on a configuration like that. So why don't we keep this hearing open for all purposes, and in between now and next month, you'll get us the revised plans with all the drainage. And
Is it possible to close the hearing and get you the plans? During that, we're
Brian, what do you think about that?
You can keep it open for submission of that additional detail, but you're not going to be able to take action until next month in any event.
Right. Yeah, we can't condition an approval on something like a document like that we haven't seen yet. So we will need you to.
So you don't feel like this document that was submitted would suffice for at least the residential, the roof calculations?
Well, the information is there, but we still have the second part of that. So all I'm really asking for the roof drainage is that it gets transcribed onto a singular page.
Or to the survey?
Yes.
So drainage calculation, roof calculation.
Yeah.
I'm just chuckling because
Is there room?
there's a lot of stuff on the survey.
I know.
They managed to get a lot on there.
Okay, well,
I get it. There's a lot there. It can be, for me, drainage stuff can be part of the planting plan and the driveway drainage plan. Look, I understand, I get your point here, but that's easily lost in the shuffle. And so if it is on Steve's plan, I think that might be better. But you have satisfied our questions for roof drainage. We just need some of the other site water management mapped out.
Okay.
Well, we haven't seen what the calculations actually work out to, and Lisa still needs to analyze it and amend her report.
Well, so yeah, the issue is taking in new information. Once the public hearing's closed, you can't, I don't think, add to the file. So we, for all intents and purposes, it sounds like they've effectively are meeting what you see as, I just want a little bit more information to add to the file so that the resolution, the permit can be prepared.
That's right.
Just speaking on behalf of Leslie, she got kind of caught with June 11th. She appeared, and then it was what you didn't have a quorum, so it became just like a work session. And then Jake Voorhees did provide some comments that were very helpful for us, and we listened to him and responded. We didn't appear again in July because we prepared the plans. Came back in August, and then Jake wasn't able to present anything, so we got caught there.
Right.
And it's just getting delayed, so we were hoping that if we could get this closed and approved, we know what we need to do.
Right.
We can provide that information to you, and I can work directly with Lisa too, if that's okay.
Well, look, I understand the frustrations of these long application processes, and if you've watched some of our recent hearings on other projects, I'm sure you understand that you're getting a much more positive response from us than some other applications. So I would take that win and run with it. And I'm sorry, but we're going to have to wait another month.
I feel bad because we're only putting it, it's not like the other applications, we're building 15,000-foot houses, we're adding 2 bedrooms.
I understand. I understand what you're saying. I understand you're probably very anxious to get started during construction season. But nevertheless, I don't think this board would feel comfortable approving anything without Lisa being able to review everything and issue a proper report. Brian, do you agree or disagree?
Agreed. A couple of things, though. If you're not going to be doing a short format decision on this, which you may not, maybe if you direct counsel to, upon receipt of a report from the engineering consultant, that the information provided demonstrates that drainage will be handled properly, direct counsel to draft a decision consistent with your discussions earlier on the three approvals that are required. So that you'll be in a position next month to adopt a decision.
Okay. I don't think this is a candidate for a short form decision. Are Steve and Lisa able to discuss in the interim to make sure that the drainage provided is going to be sufficient? Because my question is, what if they do all this and we read it and Lisa feels like it's not sufficient?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Direct me to do it only on the condition that the engineer's report states that it's sufficient. If it doesn't state that it's sufficient, I won't be drafting anything.
Okay.
So you're saying they submit the items.
Are you allowed to speak together?
If the village directs me to, yes.
Okay. Lisa also, right?
Leslie.
Leslie,
Okay.
sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, only talking from the
Oh, sorry.
podium. Okay, but no, you're good.
Okay.
Stay where you are. What do you think, Brian? We'll follow your advice.
The advice I just gave.
Okay.
So if they give the drainage report.
Right.
And they provide the sediment and erosion prevention
Mhm.
plan. And if, Lisa, you get it,
Mhm.
and you review it thoroughly and carefully and feel that it is absolutely appropriate, then we're able to direct you to issue an order approving it.
Draft a decision approving it.
For our vote. at the
Right,
next meeting.
approving the relief that is requested, which would be subject to the board's review, and after closing the hearing next month, making a decision by approving
So,
the draft.
question. If they submit those documents, if Lisa reviews those documents, if she recommends support, if she feels it is satisfactory from an environmental control viewpoint, and if you then are cleared, if you will, to prepare that opinion, Can they be told that's happening? So they know they're going to be approved in 3 weeks?
I think they were just told that, and the memorandum will become
Okay.
it will become part of the file, so they'll be able to tell where we're going
So they
on
can
this
get to
in
work
October.
and do what they need to do, assuming that everything goes well.
Okay, so obviously the more time Lisa has with this, the better, right? So let's get that to her as soon as you can, and I'll move to make that motion as Brian suggests. He
And,
will-
and as part of that, to continue the hearing to October 24th.
Yes.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, aye. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Okay, the next case is 3179, 20 Hillcrest. The applicant has requested an adjournment. Do we want to have a conversation about this, or do we want to see what they submit next month?
I think we could talk about it because there's so many questions regarding the two front.
Brian, can we have something of a work session conversation about this property now?
If you continue it to, well, the hearing was continued to today, so there's nothing that precludes you from discussing the application tonight as part of the hearing. They submitted a request for an adjournment. You can discuss that request. You can discuss the application after opening it tonight, and then just adjourn it to another date. But you certainly can discuss the whatever it is you want to discuss at this point, because as everything's been properly noticed.
Okay. What do you think in this situation? Do we see value in having a discussion about it? I mean, I don't know which way anyone is leaning on this.
Or do we think it's premature until they come back with their revised proposal?
Well, what was it that they said in the adjournment letter? I didn't look at
They
it.
said that they were going to honor the request of the board to switch the 4 feet variance, pool variance, from the, what I'll call the residential side of the house to what I'll call the commercial side, because Clam Man is right here, and then the houses all start this way. And he was gonna go short on the variance on this end, and we said, can you just switch it so you're bothering the parking lot of Clam Man, not the
Right.
neighbors? And they
Okay.
said, sure.
So since the letter,
Hearing.
since the letter does contain some proposed substantive changes, I would recommend not doing anything now,
Okay.
and rather put it off to the next month at their request.
Okay, so I will move to accept their adjournment request.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
I
Aye. Okay. Similarly, case 3180 has requested an adjournment. That's the 30 County Road 39A. I will move to accept that adjournment. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And so then we will go to 3182, 54 North Main Street.
And she's back.
Good evening, board members. I'm Liz Vale with the law firm of Greenberg Traurig, 2317 Montauk Highway in Bridgehampton, here tonight on behalf of the applicant, North Main LLC, for the property located at 54 North Main Street. I just want to make sure I'm laying this out correctly, because is this... It faces me, correct? I just want to make sure.
That's upside down.
Upside down, okay.
Yeah,
See, that's
flip that
why
around.
that's why I was checking. All right.
Looks like this.
There we go. Thank you. Okay. So this is an application for a proposed minor 2-lot subdivision at 54 North Main Street. It's comprised of 72,740 square feet. It's in a split zone. The front of the property is R20 from here forward, and the back is R7.5, which requires 7,500 square feet per lot. And the front is 20,000 square feet per lot. And we're proposing to subdivide it into Lot 1 in the rear, which is 40,000 square feet, and Lot 2 in the front, which is 32,740 square feet. And again, these are well above the lot area requirements for each section. The front is improved with a pre-existing non-conforming office building. It's 5,300 square feet. And in the back, it's improved with a pre-existing non-conforming wood shop. And again, it's zoned residential, both lots. So we submitted a yield map to the planning board evidencing that the subdivision could be a 4-lot subdivision with 3 lots proposed in the R 7.5 zoned area in the back. But the applicant is actually seeking to do a reduced yield 2-lot subdivision instead.
Did the planning board give feedback on 4 lots?
No, we were it's a requirement that they get a yield map, and they acknowledged it, but we're proposing 2 lots. We've never proposed 4 lots.
Okay.
The applicant first submitted this application and obtained sketch plan approval from the planning board in December of 2020. This kind of has a rich history, so I just want to go through it briefly
No,
for the
please
board.
do.
So in 2020, we received sketch plan approval. A negative declaration was adopted as well by the planning board in 2020, and we were told that the planning board actually preferred the flag lot plan rather than an easement plan and directed the applicant to go to the zoning board of appeals. The village zoning board of appeals considered this application at 8 different meetings and ultimately approved of actually an easement plan instead of the flag plan. And so this is contrary to what the planning board approved. So by decision dated April 2022, the ZBA approved the easement plan. And this is all regarding the access, okay?
Mhm.
So this is a proposed flag lot plan. What that means is it's a dedicated access that will be created, that will be attached to the back lot forever. It's not based on an easement. We're actually drawing a line on the map to create the access, okay? So we went back with the easement plan from the ZBA to the planning board, and the planning board said no. By the resolution adopted on June 17th, 2024, the planning board approved a sketch plan approval again for a flag lot plan, requiring the applicant to return to the ZBA and seek the original relief requested for the flag plan. And then by resolution dated July 1st, 2024, the planning board stated, and I just want to read this into the record, whereas in a prior iteration of the 2-lot subdivision of the premises, the planning board also approved a sketch plan with deeded flagpole driveway. Yet upon forwarding of that application to ZBA for necessary relief, that board compelled the applicant to accept configuration of the subdivision, contemplating access to the easterly lot by easement rather than flagpole, and in doing so, created an undesirable situation in which the planning board's approved sketch plan and ZBA's decision were at odds. And whereas the planning board is desirous to avoid a similar conflicting decision and has directed the preparation of a letter to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I attached that in my submission to the board. And then by letter dated July 1st, 2024, the planning board explained their rationale for wanting a flag lot plan over an easement plan and outlined how it relied on the actual Village of Southampton Comprehensive Plan of 2022 in its determination. So that's all in your record. Hopefully you have all of that. And I think what's really important to take away from all of this history, this rich history before these 2 boards, is that both boards approved of the subdivision. Big picture, both boards approve of the subdivision. And again, that's because we're doing a reduced density 2-lot subdivision. And most importantly, we're taking a pre-existing non-conforming use, which is the wood shop in the rear of this, and making it a conforming residential use, which the neighbors, if you look at the aerial I submitted, are all residential neighbors, and they're all pretty much in support. I have 2 neighbor letters, which I did submit to the board for your review. So that's the application in front of you. I did also submit a statement in support which outlines how we meet the 5-part test under zoning for the variances we're seeking, and I can go through the variances if you'd like.
Yeah, individually,
Yep.
and do 5 points for each one, please.
Okay, well, I'm going to do them individually, and if I could just do the 5 points for the whole, if I could. So
Before you jump into that,
sure.
when this was submitted to the previous ZBA, did they go through the exact same variance requests when they approved it with the easement?
Did they go through the same?
Or did you
what do you mean?
change the numbers at all?
The numbers from the original
Yeah.
are different only because they made us add relief for this 6.4-foot setback, which is actually existing and continuing. And the building inspector doesn't think we need relief for this, but Alex thinks we did, so we added that, and that's the only difference.
All right,
But
Yeah.
the lot configuration itself has not changed.
No, nothing has changed. This is a pre-existing non-conforming large office building. It's the configuration and the placement of it on the front lot here is what dictates all of the variances.
and it was submitted and approved previously. The only thing you're back here for is changing the easement to a flagpole.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Everything else was previously reviewed under 5 point.
Well, the easement was different. The easement relief was different because I wasn't drawing a line, right? So even though the configuration was exactly the same, the driveway's been in the same spot since 1976, nothing on the ground is really changing except making that non-conforming wood shop a conforming residential use. I'm still drawing a line on a map. And when I draw a line on a map, unfortunately, it requires me to have a 0 setback for the existing building.
That's where I was going.
Yeah, and it also forces me to have pyramid relief.
But you haven't changed that existing building.
I'm
And you
not
haven't
changing
changed it
anything.
in terms of the easement versus
No.
the flagpole.
Yeah, I'm not even
It's
creating
form
a
over
new
substance.
driveway because the driveway exists. So it's sort of like a frustration of form over substance almost.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
Liz, why don't we put a pin in the easement versus flagpole conversation for just now?
Sure.
And let's just discuss your 5 variants.
Sure. So the first variance I need is for the lot width at the street line from 25 feet to 18 feet. You'll see at the street line, I really do have 25 feet.
Lot width or driveway width?
Driveway
Driveway.
width, sorry.
Yep.
Here,
Um,
it's just
Oh, I
25
know,
to
but she
18.
said lot though.
I have 25
Pretty
feet,
good record,
but
correct.
it goes down to 18 feet right here. And as a result, I was told I needed to make sure I get the variance for that. I did get this driveway checked by your chief fire marshal, and the notations on the map are required by him, and he did attest to the safety of this for the last iteration that was before the ZBA. So it has been approved by the fire marshal's office, which is a good thing.
Do we have that in writing?
We have a stamped plan that I used
Okay,
to base this one off of, and it's in the subdivision record
okay.
for the planning board. Yep. We also have a decrease in the minimum south side yard setback from 23.02 to 0, and this is right here. The 0 setback is where this building meets that touches the flag, the line I'm drawing on this map,
Mhm.
and that's a 0 setback, where normally 23 feet was there. I'm decreasing the north side setback from 23.02 to 6.4. Now here, I don't see that. It's a 6.4 existing setback that's been there forever. It's continuing. The building inspector agreed that, I normally wouldn't need to require a variance from this board to continue a pre-existing non-conforming setback, but Alex cited it and said we should ask for relief, so I did.
Pause. Brian, that's surprising to see that request on here for me as well. I know Alex isn't available to comment on it tonight, but do you have any color on that?
I can't offer anything else, no.
Okay, please continue.
Sure. A decrease in the total side yard setback from 57.54 was the total side yard setback, to 6.4 feet. Because again, it's 0 over here and 6.4 over here, so that's their only side yard setback. Total side yard is that's the variance I need for that. And then pyramid relief for here, on this side again, where we're drawing this line. Unfortunately, it triggers pyramid relief for the pre-existing non-conforming building that's been there forever for 871 cubic feet.
And it's not being changed. You're not adding any.
Nothing
floors,
is being
nothing.
changed to the building. No, nothing at all. I did submit the 5-part test in here. I went through the fact that we're changing the pre-existing non-conforming wood shop to a conforming residential use. I submitted aerials showing you the community character in this area. I can show it to you again. I'll just move this over. It's in the packet in Exhibit G, and it was the last one. Should I turn it around? I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I'm doing this right. And you can see, community character-wise, this is all pre-existing, non-conforming. There's a residence here. It's entirely surrounded by residential dwellings. So changing this pre-existing non-conforming wood shop to a conforming residential use, one single-family residence, is much more in keeping with the character of this community and the neighborhood. And the driveway, as far as existing, has been in place in its exact location, again, since 1976. I provided an aerial that shows you the driveway goes back to the wood shop right here, exactly where it is. So I'm not changing any physical conditions of the property at all, except for making it more conforming. Again, more in keeping with the community character and the character of this neighborhood. 2001, here's another aerial just showing you, here's the paved driveway coming off North Main, again, going back to the wood shop in its exact location. I'll just keep going here, sorry. Let's see. So we submitted The statement in support, which again goes through it in writing. There are 2 neighbor letters in support of this application. It is a reduced density 2-lot subdivision where a 4-lot subdivision could have been placed. We're changing the pre-existing non-conforming use to a conforming use. We're creating 2 oversized lots. So one is a 40,000 square foot lot where 7,500 square foot is required, and the other is 36,000 square foot lot where 20,000 square foot is required. And so you're not creating, small undersized lots here that don't conform to zoning by granting these variances. So the impact of granting these variances should not have any detriment on the neighboring properties whatsoever. And so you're simply formalizing an already existing driveway, which has been in place since 1976. So there's no real change in circumstances with respect to the access to the rear lot. And when you consider the factors, although the variances might be substantial in nature just from a numbers perspective, when you look at the totality of circumstances of this particular application, you see that the granting of the variances benefit the applicant far more than there could be any detriment to the neighboring community or Southampton Village as a whole. So then I'd be asking, respectfully that you would consider granting these variances, or if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay.
I did submit 2 neighbor letters in support as well. Let's see what exhibit they were. And I submitted the planning board resolutions, the ZBA decision. There was one letter in support from 49 North Main Street and another one from 41 North Main Street. And they're in your record.
Carol, what do you think?
I think it's great. I think we should need to, I would vote to approve it.
So it seems to me as if this is sort of an academic exercise, right? Because the building exists and we're just bringing it into conformity. So I guess now let's look at the planning board's letter. What are you proposing now, Liz? A deeded flagpole?
Yes.
You are. So this is approvable.
Yes.
Per the
They
planning.
approved it by sketch plan. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and
Okay.
they also issued, as you should know, a new negative declaration under SECRA, saying that there's no environmental impacts for this as well, which is
Okay.
important. It's one of the prongs that you
They
have to
issued a
consider.
letter basically directing that a flagpole be used as opposed to an easement because of the plan of the village.
The comprehensive plan was updated in 2022, and it actually specifically mentions preferring a dedicated flag over an easement.
An owned flag.
I'm sorry?
An owned flag.
Correct, but dedicated, by dedicated, I meant part of this lot.
Got it. Not dedicated to an entity or
No,
municipality.
owned by the lot, sorry.
Right, they mentioned it's to reduce arguments between neighbors.
And it gives a sense of permanence to the access.
Yes. Okay. What do you think,
I
Linda?
just was wondering, are you gonna put 2 residences back there?
No, just one.
Just one, so the wood shop's coming down?
Correct. It says to be removed on this plan. Yep, it's being removed, and they're going to be putting a single-family residence there.
So they will be on this 40,000 square foot flag pole lot.
Correct.
Which is what the 2 letters would suggest and the area suggests is everything around it matches that.
Oh, for sure.
So they're thrilled to get rid of a wood shop and get a nice new
Yeah, I
neighbor
don't blame
that's
them.
consistent with so on. So it's an improvement in the neighborhood.
Joyce, what do you think?
No, I think it's fantastic, and I like to see how it's restoring the original residential character of that neighborhood in terms of the zoning. And I think all of your work, I wish we had more applicants who were so thorough.
Thank you.
And yeah, because it made our job a
And
lot
patient.
easier.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, then in that case, if there's anyone, is there anyone on Zoom who wants to comment on this? No.
While you're doing that, just point of clarity, having read the agenda again, item number 3, which was the north side, which you asked me for input previously, as I look at the plan too, I'm struggling to understand why a variance for that provision is needed. There is no change in that lot line. That lot line is what it is.
That's right.
Hasn't changed. There should not be a request. There should not be a need for a variance for that provision.
Agreed. Alex flagged it, so,
It's better just to notice it in case it did require.
Yep, and again, it's academic, there's nothing changing, we're just sort of codifying its existence, I guess. All right, so it sounds as if we are in agreement that this should be approved, so I'll move to close the hearing and direct Brian to write a decision to that effect.
You got it.
Have a second?
Second it.
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank
Aye
you
as
so
well.
much, board
Thanks, Liz.
members. We're very, very appreciative. Thank you.
Thanks for your patience.
Okay, final 3183 60 Breeze Lane. This needs to be renoticed, so there's nothing really for us to discuss on this, or is there? Okay. Brian, do you want to take us through the Michael and Annie Falk application? Are you aware of that?
Not familiar with it, no.
Okay. This may be more of a Alex conversation then. When they were approved, guys, a couple of years ago, they were required to, there was a big planting plan involved. They were required to have annual inspections. We have received an inspection that talks about the success of the plantings. I am not sure what sort of requirement we have on this right now. So let's table this until Alex is able to be here. Okay. So next topic then is fall meeting schedules. So let's pull up our calendar. Right now, we're targeting October 24th. How is everyone looking for that?
I'm good.
You're good? Linda?
Yep, good.
Good. Joyce?
I'm gonna check really quick.
Tom, I believe, is not good for it, at least in person.
Yeah, I think I have to do this by Zoom.
Okay.
I have to be a parents' weekend.
Okay. Brian, we can make decisions then. We have an three-person quorum and one member on Zoom.
And as long as you have 3 people in person,
Mm-hmm.
the person participating on Zoom, as long as it's indicated in the notice that they'll be participating on Zoom, also can participate in the vote.
Okay. Okay, super. So I'll follow up with Alex to make sure it's noticed properly. All right, so we will put October 4th as our next
24th.
hearing.
24th.
Sorry. Then we have November 12th. Good night, Liz. But you had raised a concern about
Right.
that date?
I'm not available that date.
Okay. And you're not available on the 14th or the 21st?
14th is a Board of Trustees meeting. 21st, I am not available either.
21st, you're not available.
The only two, for me, if you need somebody from my office, we could do that as well. But if you want me there, the only 2 days that I am available in November before the holiday is the 6th or the 20th, which according to Alex would be, the room would be available. You just have to set us up and he would participate by Zoom.
The room would be available?
Yes.
On the 20th?
Yep.
Okay. Joyce?
Yeah, that's
that
fine
works
with
for
me.
you?
Yeah.
October. what are we
November
talking,
20th.
November 20th? Yeah.
That works for you, Linda?
I may not be able to do it. I need
Okay.
to check something.
Okay. Okay. Joyce, would you be able to attend in person, do you think?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So in that case, we would have 3 people here. Linda will confirm, but we'll set the 20th for November's hearing. And then moving on to December. Brian, you didn't have any issues
No, that's fine.
with the
Change date
Tuesday
works.
the 10th. I think earlier in the month makes a little more sense. Is Tuesday the 10th feasible for everyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's Thursday the 10th.
It's Thursday the 10th, I think.
No, it's a
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
It's Tuesday?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. It
Well,
just
it's
said,
written wrong here then.
okay. so Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday.
Okay, it's good for me too. So,
Yeah.
so let's set that. And unless anyone has any comments or,
We have more. So 1377 Meadow Lane. at last month's meeting, we agreed to a settlement regarding an Article 78 that was brought with respect to that property. Now we just have to adopt a decision. I circulated a draft decision based on the terms of the settlement agreement. So if the board is on board with that decision that was circulated, the board just needs to adopt that decision tonight.
Right, and I think we all reviewed that. It just captures everything that we had discussed previously. Yes, and drops the two provisions that we agreed weren't necessary.
Correct.
Okay, so we should vote on that.
You should.
Okay. Let's see. Joyce, are you in favor of adopting the resolution as written? Okay.
Yep.
Linda is.
Yes.
Carol, and so am I. Okay, so
We need a motion.
motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, Brian, and you'll get me the form to sign for that? Or
Correct.
Alex will?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll forward it to you. You also have some letter requests with respect to different properties. 1430 Meadow Lane request to eliminate one of the conditions with respect to the building permit requirement in terms of timing.
Mhm.
Board can do one of two things: either agree, well, one of three things. Don't agree. Eliminate the provision, and the provision that's in there provides that, or in the decisions provides that a building permit shall be obtained, work completed, and a CO obtained, I believe, within a prescribed period of time as set forth in a village code section. That village code section also says that that time period does not apply to area and dimensional variances. 1430 is an area and dimensional variance. So if you are to modify the decision, you can either eliminate that condition in its entirety or just change the language slightly to provide that it shall apply only where applicable.
Right.
So, it's up to the board. Either way works. It may be cleaner to eliminate it, but that's up to the board.
I mean, I don't know if we want to wholesale eliminate something when you can be a little bit more specific in it. I mean, you guys are the attorneys on this, so what kind of language? What's the most protective language for the village?
If you, let's put it this way, if you add the language that make reference applicable rather than the, you're doing the same thing as enabling the board of trustees to do something later, which would be if they choose to modify the provision to allow for time limitations, that can be incorporated. So it's form over substance. It's not necessary to include that. You can exclude it for the approvals, and
Okay.
it still would be covered by later decision of the board of trustees. So it's not entirely necessary. It's not necessary.
What do you think, Carol?
I'd eliminate it simply because I'm a strict constructionist. Sorry, you can go either way. But bottom line is, the code says you have these time constraints, comma, except for area and dimension variances. You can't have these time constraints with area and dimension variance under the code.
Right.
I think leaving it in there saying, to the extent it applies, well, you could say also we won't walk across the street, to the extent it applies. And where do you
Okay.
stop with all this extra verbiage? And I
Uh-huh.
think you're only going to frustrate the recipient who says, wait a minute, it says you can't have this in the code. Now they're adding the squirrely language just in case the trustees change their mind in 5 years. It just gets a little complicated, and it could spring up and hurt the recipient
Okay.
when they don't know of it. They are not aware of this thing changing in the years and years and years to come. And there's this little clause lying in the weeds in their approval that comes back to haunt them. If they choose to make area variances subject to time constraints, they're going to have to address that when they change the code for all properties with them. And they need to do that probably by making it applicable going forward and not retroactively, and grandfathering in folks that have gotten in over the last 200 years.
Are you convinced by that argument?
Just a thought.
Yes.
But I could go the other way too.
Yes. You could go the other way too.
You get to the same point for now.
Okay.
But I just
So the same point was made with respect to two other applications, 1750 Meadow and 146 Halsey. So you can make one global motion to eliminate the condition that we just discussed from each of those decisions and approve the decision without that condition.
Okay.
For all
Carol,
three.
why don't you make that motion?
I move that we eliminate the time constraints attaching to area variances.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Keep it simple.
Okay, unanimous.
And then there was
It's
a
actually area and dimension.
dimension, right, which is really area. There was also a request with respect, also with respect to 1750 Meadow Lane, for an extension of time with respect to performing the construction for a wetland special permit, which is specifically that's not an area or dimensional variance.
What is the time limit that's
I
given?
think the code provides 90 days, and the applicant, this was a decision rendered by the board last month. The applicant is asking that the board vote to extend the time from the 90 days to November 25, 2025, so effectively make it 1 year and
For
90
them to
days.
start construction.
Walk through the reason why. It's in there, I highlighted it somewhere in there. Basically, he's saying that other boards within the village require certain things happen, and that by definition takes him to, he will blow the time frame because of our constraints as a village. Can you walk through that? It's in there somewhere.
He basically says the 90-day time period is not feasible, and it has, the village doesn't in practice enforce that 90-day provision anyway.
But after that, he says he's got to first go before some committee and then go to another committee and then he's got to go.
Oh, he still has to stay, right. He has predicate steps to be able to do the work. So in reality, the 90 days that's provided by code is insufficient because he has to go to New York, Suffolk County Department of Health Services. And did he mention anything else?
Yeah, he's got to.
Oh, he still, and architectural review here. So he's got at least 2 places he has to get approvals for within that 90-day period, and then also construct it within that 90-day period, which is
Exactly.
unrealistic.
So
Okay.
the reason I'm pushing this conversation is this. I sympathize with his concern. Getting before those 2 organizations and starting construction and completing construction.
Yeah, I think so.
Completing construction, 90 days seems rather an interesting time frame. Having said that, are we the people that should be, I guess we
Oh,
could grant a
commencement of construction, sorry.
commencement. Are we the people to, is this something for the trustees or the planning board to figure out, well, we've set up unreasonable expectations in the code because they have to go through so many steps, they'll never do it within 90 days? Or are we just here to punch out 90-year extensions because the law is poor?
You have discretion to grant extensions, but the underlying law should be changed if the board of trustees wants to not have you have to deal with it on an individual basis in each application. So
Is what he says in this letter is this is routinely violated, and because it's simply impossible to do.
Right.
And so they're conscientious enough to ask us for a variance, but everyone else, it seems, from his letter, just violates it. Well, if we take this out logically, then every single person doing construction should be coming here asking us for a variance, and this seems ridiculous.
Right.
They need to change the code.
right, and the other part too, the 90-day period is barely not barely started. You're only 30 days in, and it doesn't expire. You have another 2 meetings before it would expire, so you don't need to take any immediate action now. You can see if the board of trustees is going to be taking any action on their own legislatively that will relieve you of having to make a determination here. So
Oh, but that means they have to propose a change to the law
correct.
and get it through the process to change the law, and
Right.
that will probably take some time.
It will, but you'll know whether they are considering it or not. If they're not considering it and you want to provide the relief in this one instance, you certainly can do that, but you don't have to do it today. You have 2 more meetings at which you can consider it.
But these residents have a gun to their head. They know they're not going to be able to do this, and they're very anxious knowing that they're about to violate the law, and that's why they're asking. So I just think, can we have a conversation with the trustees or someone to figure out what the plans might be and sort of try to work this out professionally before we continue to allow everyone to violate the law knowingly and intentionally?
Do we know if John has approached the trustees with this? John Bennett?
He has.
Yeah, you really
Okay. And we don't know if they've decided to
Don't
take
know.
it up.
We'll probably find out in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
And I think if it takes a while to pass a law, which I have to believe it would, I think that we need to come up with a policy as to whether or not we're going to grant these things as a rule, rather than sitting there and have to weigh 3 a month, 10 a month, 500 a month, I'm exaggerating, to give extensions like this. It's the same decision every single time for the same reason, which is the procedures by which they have to go through committee to committee take so long, they will violate 90 days, and we will get these requests. We need to come up with a fast track way to approve them. Just a
But-
thought. We're not going to do that today.
Right, and also keep in mind, they're asking for, a year beyond the original 90 days. The Board of Trustees, if they take this up, they may say, no, we'll give you a total of 6 months, or we'll give you a total of 9 months, not a full year rather than a year and 3 months. So, again,
So we don't even
I
know
wouldn't-
what to approve.
right,
What's
if
the
you
reason
grant
behind-
November now, you may be overstepping what the Board of Trustees does later
Right.
by granting, by
right.
providing for a shorter term.
That's why we really have to talk to the Board of Trustees to find out where we should be going on this type of request.
Mhm.
Because it's bigger than an individual resident asking for an individual variance for an individual reason. It's really, I can't follow the law, none of us can follow the law. Would you please start granting exceptions to the law for all the residents? Not sure that's really our playing ground here.
What's the reasoning behind the limited time span?
Generally, as a municipality, you don't like to keep approvals open for, ad infinitum. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. You don't know what changes are going to occur in your code, conditions in the neighborhood, things of that nature. I would point out, though, that typically if you let's say you grant the variance, and then their variance expires, and they come back again for that variance in the future, as long as there's been no change in circumstances, you're required to be bound essentially by that original decision and adopt the same approval later. But if there is a change in conditions, then you can address it differently. So I think one of the reasons for what we'll call sunset provisions or term provisions with respect to limitations on time performing the work is do it now while the code reads this way. It may change later. There may be other considerations, other circumstances that warrant this not being not being able to do what you can do now.
But if the ARB doesn't approve it, or the township doesn't approve it, they can't start construction.
That's correct.
And that's the problem.
Right.
And then they run
Too
out of
many
90
hoops
days.
in a short period of
Too
time.
many bases to touch. Yeah. So there you have it.
So, a building permit can't even be issued until a health department RO number, stamped, approved, green stamp is given. Okay, let's
And the ARB has to approve it.
let's table this for tonight, and we will inquire, Brian, with the mayor and the village attorney what their intentions are with this, and then we can address it next month, given that it has no effect on them in the next 30 days.
Yeah.
1750 Meadow Lane.
Okay, do we need a vote on that, Brian?
You do not know.
Okay. Do we have anything else to discuss?
I
No?
think that's it.
Okay, close the hearing.
No.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you.